Jin Sakai's story is one of the most layered and emotional narratives ever told in gaming. It isn't just about a man fighting an invading army, it's about the death of tradition, the rebirth of identity, and the eternal conflict between duty and morality. Ghost of Tsushima takes what could have been a straightforward samurai revenge tale and turns it into a deep examination of what happens when an entire belief system begins to collapse under the weight of survival. To understand Jin Sakai, you have to start with his world. He was born into the samurai class, a life built on hierarchy, loyalty, and strict moral codes. From childhood, Jin was raised by his uncle, Lord Shimura, after the death of his parents. Shimura was not only his guardian but his teacher, the embodiment of the samurai ideal. Under his guidance, Jin learned that a samurai must live and die with honor. To show mercy is strength, to follow the code is righteousness. To face one's enemy head-on, without deceit, is the only noble way to fight. This system gave Jin purpose. It told him who he was and what he was meant to become. But when the Mongols invaded Tsushima, that certainty began to shatter. The invaders didn't care about honor. They didn't follow rules or codes. They used fear, deception, and overwhelming brutality to conquer. When Jin and his uncle led their forces into battle, the samurai charged in noble formation, banners raised and swords gleaming. They were met with fire, explosives, and ambushes. The code that had defined generations of warriors failed in an instant. Jin survived only by chance. His uncle was captured, his army destroyed, his people enslaved. And in that moment of defeat, the ideals that had shaped his identity began to crack. When he wakes, rescued by the thief Yuna, he's no longer the proud heir of Clan Sakai. He's just a broken man surrounded by ashes. Yuna is not a samurai. She's practical, driven by survival, not honor. When she teaches Jin to move silently, to strike from the shadows, he resists. To him, these tactics are shameful, cowardly. But as he witnesses the devastation left by the Mongols, he realizes that clinging to the samurai code would mean abandoning the helpless. That realization is the turning point of his entire life. The man who once stood for ceremony and order begins to walk a new path. His first silent kill changes everything. The game captures that moment perfectly: Jin's hesitation, the flash of blood, the sound of his breathing as he realizes what he's done. It's not triumph, it's transformation through guilt. He's broken a sacred law, but in doing so, he saves lives. That act becomes the foundation for the Ghost. The Ghost isn't born out of rebellion, he's born out of necessity. As Jin begins to fight the Mongols using stealth, fear, and misdirection, the people of Tsushima start to whisper about a phantom warrior who strikes from nowhere. To them, it doesn't matter how he kills, only that he protects. For the first time, Jin's power comes not from his title or lineage, but from his actions. He becomes a symbol of resistance, a myth that spreads faster than any army. But the more he embraces the Ghost, the further he drifts from his uncle. Lord Shimura represents the old world, the order that held Japan together for centuries. To him, honor is not just personal, it's the glue of society. If the samurai abandon their code, civilization itself begins to crumble. Jin's defiance isn't just dangerous to their family, it's heresy. Their relationship becomes the emotional center of the story. It's more than a generational conflict, it's a battle for the soul of Tsushima. Every conversation between Jin and Shimura carries the weight of 1,000 years of tradition. Shimura wants to preserve what's left of their way of life, while Jin wants to protect what's left of their people. They both fight for the same goal, peace, but in entirely different ways. Jin's choices reflect the changing nature of warfare and morality. As he uses tactics once forbidden, assassinations, poisons, deception, he saves lives but also spreads fear. The Mongols begin to fear the Ghost more than the samurai, but so do his own people. He becomes both savior and omen, protector and outlaw. That duality defines his identity. Every major event in his story pushes him deeper into this transformation. His alliance with Yuna, the hunt for allies, the liberation of villages, all of it brings him closer to victory and further from redemption. The moment he kills Ryuzo, his former friend turned enemy, is especially powerful. It's a death Jin doesn't want, but one that fate demands. He's forced to kill the man who once fought by his side, not because of hatred, but because the war has twisted everything they once believed in. Then comes the breaking point, Jin's use of poison. When he deploys it against the Mongols, he wins the battle, but loses his place in the samurai world. The shogun declares it dishonorable, his uncle condemns him, and his own clan name is stripped away. Yet from Jin's perspective, what choice did he have? The poison saved thousands of lives. The cost was his identity. By the time Jin faces Cotton Khan in their final duel, he's no longer the same man who charged into battle at Komoda Beach. His fighting style, his mindset, even his soul have changed. Cotton is a brilliant enemy because he mirrors Jin's conflict. He understands honor but rejects it as weakness. He taunts Jin by showing him that his transformation is proof that the samurai way is dying, and in a cruel sense, he's right. Jin kills Cotton not as a samurai, but as the Ghost, fast, efficient, merciless. It's a victory for the island, but a personal loss. When the battle ends, there's no triumph, no celebration, only silence. The aftermath is where the true tragedy unfolds. Lord Shimura, bound by the shogun's will, must execute Jin to restore the honor of their clan. The two meet in a quiet field, surrounded by falling leaves. It's one of the most emotional scenes in gaming. Shimura tells Jin that he loves him like a son, but his duty is absolute. Jin tells him that honor died on the beach at Komoda. What's left is only survival and love for the people. Their final duel isn't about hatred, it's about sorrow. The sound of their swords clashing carries every lesson, every memory, every unspoken apology. When Jin wins, he faces a final choice: to grant his uncle an honorable death or let him live with the shame of disobedience. Neither path brings peace. Whatever he chooses, the result is the same. The bond that defined his life is gone forever. After that, Jin becomes an exile. The ghost remains, but the man he once was is dead. His story doesn't end with victory or redemption, it ends with solitude. He's the guardian of Tsushima, but no longer part of it. The people he protects tell stories of a savior who moves like smoke, who punishes evil but lives in the shadows. That ending, quiet and somber, defines the beauty of Ghost of Tsushima. It isn't about revenge or glory, it's about the cost of survival. Jin saves his island, but the price is everything he believed in. On a deeper level, his story mirrors the historical and philosophical shifts that occurred during Japan's transition from the samurai era. The world around Jin is changing. The strict moral codes of the past are breaking under the pressure of modernity and pragmatism. Jin represents that painful evolution. He's not rejecting tradition out of pride, he's evolving beyond it out of necessity. In the end, Jin Sakai becomes a symbol of balance between past and future. He carries the values of the samurai, discipline, compassion, and courage, but expresses them in a new form. He learns that true honor isn't about how you fight, but why you fight. The tragedy of Jin's story is that he must destroy his own identity to protect what it stood for. He loses his title, his family, and his place in history, yet gains something greater: freedom. He becomes what his people need, not what tradition demands. That's why his story resonates so deeply. It's not just about a samurai facing an invasion, it's about anyone forced to question the rules that shape them. It's about the moment when doing what's right means defying everything you've been taught to respect. Jin Sakai's transformation into the ghost is a story of loss, courage, and moral awakening. It's a reminder that heroes are not always those who follow the rules, but those who break them for the right reasons. And even though Jin walks alone, his spirit lingers as the embodiment of change, the man who proved that sometimes honor must die for humanity to survive.